I knew something was wrong the second I opened my banking app and saw a balance so low it felt like the floor dropped out from under me. $27,000, my entire emergency fund. Gone. Not a dip. Not a withdrawal I forgot about. Completely drained. And the only name on the transfer record was one that made my stomach twist. Shanice, my baby sister. The same sister who cried on my shoulder when her last relationship fell apart. The same sister I trusted with everything, including access to my life. At first, I thought it had to be a glitch. Banks mess up sometimes, right? Systems get confused. Maybe it would refresh in a second. So I closed the app, opened it again. Nothing. Same empty number staring back at me like an accusation. I whispered, No, she wouldn't. But even as I said it, my body already knew. It was the quiet kind of knowing that lives in your bones long before your mind catches up. I called her, straight to voicemail. I tried again, same thing. I texted her, call me now. When no bubbles appeared, the truth hardened in my throat. She knew exactly what she'd done. My hands were shaking as I drove across town to her apartment. It was too early for neighbors to be out, so the parking lot was silent, almost eerie. I ran up the stairs and pounded on her door so hard my knuckles stung. Shanice, open this door right now. When she finally cracked it open, she looked like she hadn't slept. Her hair was wrapped in a bonnet, and she clutched a robe around her like she was cold. Tommy, it's early. I shoved the door the rest of the way open. You stole my money. She flinched like the word slapped her. Tommy, listen, I was gonna tell you. No, don't even try it. $27,000, Shanice? That fund was for my retirement, my health, the future I've been building since before you even graduated high school. She backed up, eyes darting everywhere except my face. I needed it, okay? I was desperate. We're all desperate sometimes, I said, stepping inside. But you don't steal from your own sister. I trusted you. She was crying now, but there was something practiced about it, something familiar. I didn't know what else to do. My rent was behind, my car got repossessed, and I thought you'd understand. Understand? My voice cracked. I've been scraping and saving for years. I worked double shifts. I gave up weekends. I sacrificed. And you just took it like it was nothing. I said I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't put the money back. We stood there, breathing hard, the air between us broken. Then she said the one thing that changed everything. Look, you don't have kids, Tommy. You don't have anybody depending on you. I figured you'd bounce back quicker than me. It felt like she punched me straight in the chest. So that's what I am to you? A backup plan? A piggy bank? She didn't answer. I walked out before the rage could swallow me whole. But going home didn't bring comfort because when I opened my mailbox, there were 3 envelopes waiting for me, each stamped with red lettering that made my heart freeze. A notice from the landlord, a late payment letter from my credit card, and the worst one, a final notice on my condo insurance, something I'd been keeping afloat with that emergency fund. Without that money, every bill snapped loose like a beam in a collapsing house. That night, I paced my living room until the lights flickered off, my power cut for non-payment. I hadn't even realized how behind I had become after covering for Shanice's emergencies these past months. I packed what I could in 2 suitcases, grabbed my purse, and drove to a small rundown motel on the highway where the neon sign flickered like it was catching his last breath. The room smelled like bleach and old smoke. The sheets were thin. The heater rattled every few minutes like it was complaining about being alive. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the cracked wallpaper, and let the weight of everything crash down. 48 years old, homeless, betrayed by my own blood. I kept hearing Shanice's voice. You'll bounce back quicker than me. Like my life, my work, my sacrifices meant nothing. Like my worth was measured only by how much I could carry for everybody else. But beneath all that pain, something fierce was awakening inside me. Something steady, something angry, something tired of being the responsible one while everyone else took advantage. I wiped my face, straightened my shoulders, and whispered to the dark, I'm not going down like this. Just then, my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. No name, just one sentence that made my heart drop into my stomach. You don't know the whole story about your money. For a long minute, I just stared at the message, the motel room's dim light flickering across the screen like it was trying to warn me. You don't know the whole story about your money. My pulse thumped in my ears, loud and hot. Was it Shanice? Using some burner number? Someone she owed, or someone I owed now without even knowing it? I typed back with trembling fingers. Who is this? 3 dots blinked, stopped, blinked again, then vanished. No reply. I threw my phone on the bed and pressed my palms to my eyes until the darkness swirled. The motel heater clicked again, sputtering warm air that barely reached me. I wrapped the thin blanket tighter around my shoulders, but nothing could stop the cold creeping into my bones. I kept whispering to myself, what whole story? What else could there be? But another voice, quieter and older, murmured, girl, you know your sister doesn't steal small. And deep down, I did know. Shanice didn't move without dragging drama behind her like a shadow. My stomach growled, reminding me I hadn't eaten since morning. I grabbed my coat and stepped outside into the crisp night. The air stung my cheeks, and for a second, I felt like a child again, walking home from school in the cold, thinking home meant warmth and safety. Tonight, home was a numbered metal door with peeling paint. I felt the loss of that more than I wanted to admit. I crossed the street to the little convenience store next to the motel. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed like angry bees. I grabbed a sandwich, a bottle of water, and a cheap phone charger. As I approached the counter, the cashier, a middle-aged black man with tired eyes, glanced at my motel room key hanging from my finger. You staying long? He asked quickly. Just tonight, I said, hoping that was true. He nodded with a knowing sadness. Those rooms get cold after midnight. Keep that heater running. I forced a smile. Yeah, I will. When I returned to my room, there was a shadow standing by my door. I froze. My first instinct was to run back to the store and scream, but something about the shape was familiar. The posture, the hair. Shanice? I said cautiously. She turned, and her face was puffy from crying, but her eyes were wild, almost frantic. Tommy, thank God you weren't answering me. I blocked you, I said flatly. You stole from me. Why would I answer? She stepped forward. I didn't steal it. The rage that shot up my spine almost knocked me over. Don't you lie to me, not after everything. I swear, she whispered. I didn't take all of it. I blinked. All of it? Shanice, that's not the defense you think it is. No, listen. She looked over her shoulder like someone might be watching. I took some of it, yes, but Tommy, I didn't take the last $15,000. That was half the fund. My throat tightened. Who did? I don't know. She ran a hand through her hair. I swear, I only transferred $12,000. I was going to pay it back. I already started a payment plan with one of those fast cash apps, but then I got behind again, and you plan to pay it back? $12,000? With what? She bit her lip. I'm trying to get Stevie at work again? You quit your job. No, I was laid off because you kept showing up late. Her face crumpled. I didn't steal the rest, Tommy. Someone else got into your account. I glanced at my motel door. And how exactly would someone else have gotten access? She shifted uncomfortably. Okay, I told my ex you were letting me borrow from you. He might have gotten your information off my phone. He used to do little scams and stuff. I gasped. You told a man who scams people that I had savings? Her silence was all the answer I needed. I felt sick. Betrayal on betrayal, like wet blankets smothering me. Get out of here, Shanice. Tommy, wait! I said get out. My voice cracked. Before I say something that ends us for good. She stepped back, tears sliding down her face. I didn't want him to hurt you, she whispered. I am hurt. You just don't see it because you're used to me surviving. She flinched like that hit her harder than screaming ever could. She turned and walked away, her figure disappearing into the dim haze of the parking lot. I went inside, locked the door, and slid down until I was sitting on the grungy carpet, my breath coming out in sharp bursts. Someone else had my banking information. Someone who knew where my money was, someone who knew enough to take the rest. My phone buzzed again. A new message. I can tell you what really happened. Meet me tomorrow, alone. Attached was an address, a location across town, somewhere I didn't recognize. I stared at it, my heart beat heavy with dread. Whoever sent that message wasn't Shanice, and somehow they knew exactly where to find me. I barely slept that night. Every noise in the motel sounded like a threat. The pipes rattling, the footsteps outside, the heater clicking like it was struggling for life. I kept replaying the messages in my head, trying to figure out who would know enough about my finances to empty them with such precision, and why they wanted to meet me alone. By sunrise, my eyes burned, but my mind was sharper. Survival mode does that. It wakes up the parts of you that don't get used until life flips over and shows you the underside. I showered quickly, dressed in jeans and a sweater, and stared at myself in the cracked bathroom mirror. 48 years old, a grown woman, yet I felt like a teenager standing outside the principal's office, waiting to be punished for something I didn't do. My reflection looked tired, but determined, the kind of tired that made you dangerous. I grabbed my purse and stepped outside. The morning air was cold, crisp enough to sting my lungs. As I headed to my car, I noticed something strange. A dark sedan idling across the parking lot, engine humming softly. The windows were tinted too deep to see inside. My steps slowed. Could it be coincidence? Sure it could, but nothing about the last 24 hours felt coincidental. I unlocked my car, slid inside, and watched the sedan through my rearview mirror. It didn't move, but I felt its gaze like heat on the back of my neck. I pulled out of the lot, keeping my eyes trained on it. Still, it didn't move, but unease traveled with me the whole drive. The address from the text led me to an older neighborhood on the east side, rows of rundown duplexes, sagging porches, paint peeling like old scabs. This was the kind of place where people disappeared into their problems, miles away from where I used to live, where I'd built a life steady enough to lean on. I found the house. It was small, with a broken mailbox and a screen door hanging crooked. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles whitened. "This is a bad idea," I whispered, but turning back wouldn't fix anything. Someone was messing with my life, my future, my security, and if I didn't face it, I'd spend the rest of my life hiding in cheap motels, waiting for the next hit. I stepped out and walked cautiously toward the house. Before I could knock, the door opened. A man stepped out, mid-30s, tall, with a shaved head and a scar running along his cheek. His eyes were sharp, too sharp, and the kind of tired that meant he'd seen things most people prayed against. "You must be Tammy." My throat tightened. "And you are?" "Derek." He glanced around nervously. "We shouldn't talk outside." I planted my feet firmly. "I'm not going in there." He sighed. "Fine. Then listen, I know about the 27,000. That made my pulse spike. How? He looked at me like the answer should have been obvious. Shanice's ex is my brother. My breath stopped. Your brother? Marcus. My stomach dropped. I'd never met him, but I'd heard his name in enough of Shanice's frantic stories to know trouble clung to him like a perfume. Illegal hustles, quick money, fast scams. Men like him didn't stop until they got caught or killed, or until they found someone softer to bleed dry. "What does he want from me?" I demanded. His jaw clenched. "He wants money. He thinks you're sitting on more than that 27,000. A bitter laugh escaped me before I could stop it. "More? I'm living in a motel with a heater that coughs like it's dying." "He doesn't know that," Derek said quietly. "He's been watching your place for weeks." Ice slid down my spine. "Watching my place?" Derek nodded. "He's convinced you moved the rest of your savings somewhere else, some offshore account or hidden safe. He thinks you hid the big money." I stared at him. "What big money? I had exactly what was in that account. That was everything." "That's not what he believes. He thinks you're lying, and when Marcus thinks someone is lying, he keeps pushing." My knees weakened. I grabbed the railing to steady myself. "Why are you telling me this?" He looked away, shame tightening his features. "Because he's my brother, and he's out of control, and I swallowed hard. I don't want you to get hurt because of him." My heartbeat pounded through my whole body. "So what am I supposed to do? I can't give him money I don't have." He hesitated. Then he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Marcus didn't just steal from your account, Tammy. He's using your information, your identity. He already opened 2 credit cards in your name. I tried to stop him, but he's not listening to me anymore." The world tilted. I grabbed the railing tighter. "My identity? He's stealing my life." "I'm trying to help," he whispered, "but you need to go to the police today." "I can't just..." He cut me off. "You need to, because Marcus doesn't stop at money. That cold fear spiraled down my spine again. Before I could respond, Derek stiffened and looked over my shoulder. His expression changed. Fear, sharp and immediate. "What?" I whispered. He whispered back, barely audible. "Don't turn around." My heart seized. "Why?" "He followed you. He's here." And before I could even breathe, I heard the slow crunch of footsteps behind me. Heavy, deliberate, close. The footsteps behind me were slow, heavy, like whoever it was wanted me to feel each one. My breath locked in my chest. Derek's eyes were fixed over my shoulder, wide and terrified, the way people look when they see a fire spreading too fast to stop. "Don't move," he whispered, but fear crawled up my throat and forced me to turn anyway. A tall man stood at the bottom of the porch stairs, stocky build, hood pulled low, hands deep in the pockets of a black jacket. Even from that distance, I could feel his stare, sharp and assessing, like he was choosing what part of me to break first. "Marcus," Derek hissed, "what are you doing?" Marcus didn't answer. He just tilted his head at me with a slow, eerie smile that made my skin prickle. "You must be the sister," he finally said, voice smooth as oil over gravel. "Tommy, right?" My mouth dried. "I don't have anything else to give you." His smile widened. "See? That's the thing. I don't believe you." He took one step closer, hands still in his pockets. "You look like a woman who's been saving her whole life, a woman with plans." "I had plans," I said, my voice trembling but steady. "Plans your brother already destroyed." Derek stepped between us. "Marcus, stop. She doesn't have it. She doesn't have anything left." Marcus shot him a cold look. "Move." "No," Derek said, surprisingly firm. "You've done enough." For a moment, the two brothers stood locked in a silent stare. The cold air tightened around all of us, thick with old resentment. I could feel the history between them, the twisted loyalty, the anger, the desperation. Men like Marcus didn't grow overnight. They were shaped by years of wanting more than they earned. But Marcus wasn't looking at Derek anymore. His gaze slid back to me. "I just want what's mine," he said. "It wasn't yours to begin with." I snapped before fear could choke me into silence. His smirk faded. "Don't get smart." My pulse hammered, but I forced my spine straight. "You've already taken everything. The whole fund, my safety, my home. What else could you possibly want?" He shrugged casually, like the question was boring. "The rest." "There is no rest." "You're lying." Derek stepped forward again. "Marcus, she's telling the truth." Marcus's hand twitched in his pocket and Derek sucked in a sharp breath. "Don't," he said quietly. "Not her." I swallowed hard, trying not to let my legs shake. Marcus stared at me another long second, then slowly pulled his hands out of his pockets. No weapon, just tension, thick as rope. "Fine, if you're broke, you're broke." He stepped closer, leaning in until I could smell the stale cigarette smoke in his breath. "But I'm not done yet." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" I whispered. He smirked again, cruel and small. "You'll see." He turned away, walked back down the steps, and slipped into the passenger side of a dark SUV parked across the street. The engine revved once, then the SUV pulled off slowly, too slowly. He wanted me to know he wasn't rushing. He had time, plenty of it. When the SUV disappeared around the corner, Derek exhaled shakily. "Tammy, I'm sorry. I didn't know he'd follow me. I led him here. He must have been watching my motel." He looked at me, conflicted. "You need to leave now." "I know. And you need to go to the police." I hesitated, throat tight. "If I report him, he'll know it was me." "He already knows it's you. He thinks you're hiding money he wants. Reporting him won't change that, but it could protect you." I closed my eyes. He was right, but fear kept whispering all the reasons it would go wrong. I stepped off the porch, legs shaking. "Derek, thank you for telling me." He nodded. "I'll try to keep him off you for as long as I can." "That doesn't sound reassuring." "It's the best I've got," he said sadly. I drove away, glancing in my mirrors every few seconds. Every car behind me looked suspicious. Every stoplight felt like a trap. My palms were slick against the steering wheel, and my mind spun, trying to piece everything together. By the time I reached the motel, my nerves were raw. I went inside, locked the door, and pushed the rickety dresser in front of it. Then I sat on the edge of the bed, shaking. I needed a plan. I needed protection. I needed my life back. I pulled out my phone and dialed the local police department's non-emergency line. A calm female voice answered the way people speak to breakable things. I explained the theft, the identity fraud, the threat. She told me to come in the next morning to file official reports. She said they'd flag my accounts, start an investigation, but then she added something that made my scalp tingle. "Ma'am, we have a note on your file from last night." "A note?" "Yes. Someone called asking questions about you, about your address, your recent movements, your financial status." My blood turned to ice. "Who?" I whispered. She paused. "That information was not provided." I nearly dropped the phone. Someone was tracking me through official channels. Someone with access. Someone dangerous. When I ended the call, I sat frozen in place, the motel walls closing in. Then my phone buzzed again, a new message from the same unknown number. "If you want to survive this, you need to hear the truth tonight." Attached was a live location, moving slowly, straight toward my motel. The little blue dot on my phone screen crept closer to my motel like it had a heartbeat of its own. I held my breath as it moved past the gas station, then the laundromat, then the empty lot with the rusting fence. Whoever sent that message wasn't guessing. They knew exactly where I was, exactly where I was sitting, exactly how afraid I'd become. My hands shook as I scanned the parking lot through the thin motel curtain. People walked in and out of their rooms, smokers, night shift workers, tired parents hauling sleepy kids, but none of them looked like they were tracking me. The live location stopped moving. It pulsed on the screen like a warning, just 50 feet from my door. A knock sounded. 3 slow taps. Not urgent, not panicked. Intentional. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I thought it might crack something. "Who is it?" I called, forcing strength into a voice that was barely holding together. A pause. Then a woman's voice answered. "I'm here to help you, Tommy." The voice wasn't familiar. Not Shanice's, not anyone from work, not one of my neighbors. But there was something steady about it. Controlled, like a person used to high-pressure situations. I stayed behind the door and gripped the knob so tightly it hurt. "Step where I can see you." Her footsteps moved into view through the peephole. A black woman in her late 30s stood there wearing a denim jacket and jeans, hair pulled back in a low puff. Her eyes scanned the parking lot before returning to my door. "Tommy," she said gently, "please open up. We don't have long." "Who are you?" I asked. "My name is Raina. I work in fraud investigations. I was assigned your case this morning." "That fast?" "That's how serious this is." My mind skidded. No one from the police said anything about assigning someone. "Show me your credentials." She pulled a badge wallet from her pocket and held it up to the peephole. I squinted, trying to read every detail. It looked real, but anything could be fake these days, especially by someone working with men like Marcus. "Call the department," she said, as if reading my hesitation. "Ask for Raina Horwood, badge 2471. I stepped back, grabbed my phone, and dialed the police station. The same woman from earlier answered. When I asked about the badge number, she paused. "Yes," the woman said. "Detective Howard is assigned to your case." Assigned? Not will be, not might be. Already assigned. Before I could ask why, the woman added, "She told us she's en route to you." My throat tightened. "Thank you," I whispered, and hung up. I opened the door slowly, leaving the chain latched. Raina held up both hands. "I'm not going to hurt you. I need to get you somewhere safe." I studied her face. Strong, alert, no panic. Her eyes held the kind of tired truth only people who've seen too much carry. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "To help you before Marcus finds you," she said plainly. The chain rattled as I closed the door, unlatched it, and opened it fully. She stepped inside with quick, efficient movements, scanning the room the way a bodyguard might. "You need to leave this motel right now." "Because of Marcus?" She inhaled slowly. "Because of what Marcus is mixed up in. And because he's not working alone." The air left my lungs. "He has partners?" "More like handlers." She took a seat at the small table, motioning for me to sit opposite her. "Tommy, you need to brace yourself." I sat. Slowly. Raina leaned forward. "Your sister's ex didn't just steal your account information. He sold it." "What?" I whispered. He sold it to a small network that deals in high-value identity packages, savings accounts, credit files, work histories, anything they can monetize. My chest tightened. My whole life is already in circulation, she finished. They've been building profiles off you for weeks, maybe months. I shook my head. I don't understand. Why me? Because your financial habits made you look stable and predictable, she explained. People like you, consistent savers with no major debt, are gold to identity brokers. I covered my face with both hands. Dear God, we're going to fix this, she said firmly. But I need you to listen carefully. I forced myself to meet her gaze. Marcus didn't empty that account by himself. He took the first part. Then he passed your file along. They drained the rest. That matches what Shanice said. She claims she only took 12. Raina nodded. We confirmed that. The 12,000 came from a device connected to her home network. The remaining 15 came from a different IP entirely. My mind spun. So the unknown person who texted me, was that you? No, she said, but I saw the messages on the police report. Her expression tightened. We don't know who sent them yet. A chill crept through me. Someone else knows everything that's happening. Yes, and they're closing in. Before I could process that, Raina stood and moved quickly to the window. We need to go, now. Why? She pointed. A dark SUV had pulled into the far corner of the lot. Same model, same tinted windows, Marcus's SUV. My heart dropped into my stomach. No, he can't, she whispered. He is, Raina shouted sharply. Grab your bag. I snatched my suitcase and purse from the bed as she cracked the door open and checked both sides. Follow me, she ordered. Stay low, stay behind me. We moved along the walkway, each step echoing in my heartbeat. When we reached the back staircase, Raina motioned for silence and led me towards a side exit that opened onto an alley behind the motel. Keep walking, she whispered. My car is... A voice called out behind us. Well, well, afternoon, ladies. We froze. Marcus stepped out from behind a dumpster, arms crossed, smirk sharp enough to cut glass. How lucky am I? Y'all made this real easy. His eyes locked on me. Raina stepped in front of me, hand hovering near her waistband. Marcus Coleman, step back, walk away. He laughed. Oh, sweetheart, you think I'm scared of a badge? He took a slow step forward. Tommy owes me. I owe you nothing, I snapped, the fear turning into a tight coil of anger. His smile vanished. Say that again? Raina planted her feet. Back. Away. Marcus tilted his head, eyes narrowing. You know, I was gonna do this the nice way, but since y'all want to play hero, he reached into his jacket. Move, Raina shouted. She shoved me hard, and I stumbled into the alley wall as Marcus pulled something metallic from his pocket. But before he could raise it, a loud voice barked from behind us. Don't move. I turned just in time to see two officers sprinting down the alley, guns drawn, faces hard with intention. Marcus froze. His eyes flicked to the exit, then back to me. This ain't over, he hissed. But the officers were already on him, forcing him to the ground as he struggled and cursed. Raina grabbed my arm. We have to go. Now. Before his people show up. His people? I echoed, shaking. Yes, she said firmly. This arrest won't stop all of them. The officer shouted commands. Metal clattered. Marcus's voice grew distant, but my world felt sharper, clearer, like fear had peeled back a layer I didn't know existed. Raina ushered me towards a dark blue sedan parked behind the alley. Get in, she ordered. You're not safe here anymore. I slid into the passenger seat, shaking, and as the door closed, as Raina sprinted around to the driver's side, as the engine roared to life, my phone buzzed again. A new message. From the same unknown number. You shouldn't trust her. I woke up before dawn, staring at the cracked motel ceiling as if it held some secret message about how I was supposed to keep going. The room hummed with the low, uneven whir of the old heater, and even though it was warm, I felt cold in a way that went deeper than my skin. The kind of cold that comes from being uprooted, betrayed, and forced into survival mode when you were already tired. I lay there, replaying last night's conversation with Sierra, the way she said, I was gonna pay you back, like she had just borrowed a tablespoon of sugar instead of cleaning out $27,000 of my life savings. The sheer audacity left a ringing in my ears that still hadn't faded. My heart throbbed in a slow, bitter rhythm as I dragged myself out of bed. I poured myself a cup of motel coffee, brown water with a caffeine identity crisis, and sat at the tiny round table with my notebook. I always used writing to steady myself, but today, the pen felt heavier than usual. I wrote the same sentence 3 times. I will not fall apart. I didn't quite believe it yet, but sometimes you have to write the truth until it becomes real. Just as I was gathering myself to apply for another round of customer service jobs, My phone buzzed. I stared at the caller ID. It was Mama. My fingers went cold. Mama almost never called this early, and I knew, deep in my bones, that Sierra had told her some twisted version of events. I inhaled, exhaled, and swiped to answer. "Morning, Ma," I said, trying to sound steady. "Baby, why you down at that motel? Sierra came by here last night crying, saying you threw her out your house and embarrassed her in front of folks." I closed my eyes. There it was. The rewrite. The manipulation. Sierra didn't waste any time making herself the victim. My jaw tightened. Mama, she stole my emergency fund. $27,000. My whole safety net. My voice wavered despite my best effort. She lied. Mama let out a long sigh, the kind that carried decades of family patterns. "Now, you know your sister been struggling, and you got a good heart, baby. Maybe God is using you to help her through a season. Mama, helping is when I offer. Stealing is when she takes it behind my back." My voice cracked, and I hated that it did. "Do you hear what I'm saying? She went into my account. She didn't ask." Instead of being shocked, angry, or protective like I needed her to be, Mama sounded tired. "Well, you were always better with money. Maybe it was easier for her to assume you could bounce back quicker." I felt something inside me collapse, just a little. Not fully, not permanently, but enough to sting. "Mama, I'm in a motel. I don't have a home right now. I'm living day by day." There was silence on the line, heavy, loaded. Then Mama said quietly, "I ain't got much, but you can come stay here for a few days if you need to." I froze. Mama offering help wasn't the shocking part. It was the tone, the strained, reluctant one, as if I had somehow created the situation. As if Sierra wasn't the one who detonated my life with a single desperate decision. "Thank you," I said, swallowing hard. "But I need space. I need somewhere I can think." Mama sighed again. "Well, pray on it, and try not to be so angry at your sister. She didn't mean no harm." Didn't mean harm? The words sliced me open. After we hung up, I sat very still, feeling the weight of generational excuses pressing down on my chest. Black women are always carrying something, someone on our backs, but being expected to carry the very person who stole from me, that was too much. I needed air. I grabbed my coat and stepped outside into the crisp morning. The sky was a soft gray, the kind that hinted at rain, and the parking lot smelled faintly of damp asphalt and cigarette smoke. I walked to the corner store for something to eat, rubbing my hands together against the cold. As I approached the store, a man in a navy hoodie stepped out, holding a to-go cup of coffee. He nodded politely when our eyes met. Normally, I kept to myself, but today my spirit felt cracked open, raw enough to let in a stranger's kindness. "You staying at the motel?" he asked gently. I hesitated, but nodded. "Yeah, just, temporary." He gave a sympathetic smile. "Ain't nothing wrong with temporary. Sometimes temporary is the setup for the comeback." Something about his tone, matter of fact, not nosy, made me pause. It was the first encouraging thing anyone had said to me since this whole nightmare started. "Thank you," I murmured. He raised his cup in a small salute. "You take care of yourself, ma'am." We went our separate ways, but his words settled into me like a small flame. A setup for the comeback. Back in my room, I pulled up a local community housing resource page and started making calls. Most leads were dead ends or 6-month waiting lists. I rubbed my forehead, fighting frustration. I wasn't giving up. Not today. Just when I started to feel a flicker of determination, my motel door rattled. So hard and sudden I jumped. A voice came through the door, sharp and familiar. "Open this door, Layla. We need to talk." My stomach dropped. It was Sierra, and she sounded furious. The knocking grew louder. I backed away from the door, heart pounding. How did she even know where I was? The knob twisted once, twice. Then I heard her hiss through the door. "You better open this door right now. You think you can just run off and make me look like the bad guy?" My breath caught in my throat. She wasn't here to apologize. She was here to escalate. Her fist slammed against the door so hard, the metal frame rattled. I pressed my back to the far wall, my breath caught somewhere between my lungs and my throat. For a split second, I wondered if I was overreacting. Then Sierra yelled again, louder, angrier, and any doubt disappeared. "Layla, open this door. I know you in there." Her voice cut through the silence like broken glass. I stared at the door. my pulse thudding in my ears. I'd seen Sierra mad before, annoyed, petty, jealous, but this was different. This was cornered animal energy. The kind that made me feel like if I cracked that door open, even an inch, she'd push her way in and we'd both end up in a place we couldn't come back from. I edged closer to the door, but kept a solid foot of space between us. Sierra, what are you doing here? You've been telling everybody lies about me. Mama's looking at me all sideways, saying you homeless because of something I did. You making me look crazy. I closed my eyes for a moment, grounding myself. I didn't lie, I said through the door. You took my money. I borrowed it. I already told you I was going to pay it back. You acting like I'm some kind of thief. I exhaled sharply. You are when you take something without asking. Oh, so now you righteous. You live in here like you some martyr. You think everybody's supposed to feel sorry for you? Sierra, stop, please. You need to leave. A beat of silence. Then Sierra's voice dropped low and venomous. Not until we talk. I glanced at the small window across the room. If she kept pounding like this, the motel manager was going to come up. The last thing I needed was more attention. I slipped on my sneakers, grabbed my purse, and went to the window. Thank God it opened. Cold air brushed my face as I climbed out, landing in the gravel behind the motel. My heart pounded so hard my vision flickered for a moment. I ducked low and crept around the building, staying out of sight. From the side path, I could still hear her yelling, but the distance made her voice sound thin and desperate. I slipped into the back parking lot and walked fast, almost jogging, toward the street. I didn't know where I was going, just away. I crossed 2 blocks before my heart rate even began to settle. I stopped near a bench outside a laundromat, bent over with my hands on my knees, gasping the cold air. My breath came out in white puffs, matching the frost clinging to the bench rails. For a moment, I felt every ounce of tiredness in my bones. Why did it always come to this with my family? Me being strong until I broke and then pretending not to notice the cracks. I sat down slowly, rubbing my hands together to keep warm. Cars hummed by on the main street. A bus hissed to a stop a few yards away. Normal people were going to work, living life, laughing on phone calls. Meanwhile, my life felt like it was unraveling thread by thread. As I sat there, my phone buzzed again. I flinched, seeing Sierra's name, and hit decline. A few seconds later, a text popped up. You making a fool out of me. You better come talk to me. I deleted it without opening the whole thread. Another buzz. Mama this time. Baby, Sierra said she looked for you. Where you go? I put the phone face down on the bench, pressing my fingertips to my temples. My family had a way of reshaping the truth until I ended up feeling guilty for standing up for myself. I couldn't play referee today. I needed help, not emotional negotiating, not guilt, real help. A bus pulled up, the doors folding open with a soft hiss. I didn't think. I just stood, boarded, and found a seat near the middle. I paid the fare and stared out the window, unsure where I was headed. After 10 minutes, I realized the route passed near the community center I'd volunteered at a few years back. Miss Carol liked me. She always said, Lila, you got a survivor spirit. Don't let nobody steal that. I hadn't seen her in a while, but something in my gut told me to go. I got off 2 stops later and walked to the small brick building with faded murals. When I pushed the door open, warm air on the smell of coffee and old books greeted me. A few women sat at tables, filling out forms or chatting quietly. Miss Carol spotted me from her office doorway. Well, look who the wind blew in. She gave me a long once-over, her expression softening. Baby, you okay? I swallowed hard. Something about her tone made my eyes sting. No, not really. She guided me into her office, closed the door, and gestured for me to sit. Talk to me. And I did. Not everything. Not the shaking hands, not the moment I climbed out a motel window like I was escaping an ambush, but enough. Enough for her to understand. When she finished, she folded her hands. Lila, you don't deserve this. And you sure don't have to go through it alone. There's a transitional housing program starting intake today. It ain't fancy, but it's safe and stable, and it's yours. My heartbeat stuttered. For real? For real? I can walk you over. Something inside me, tight, knotted, strangled, loosened a little. For the first time in days, I felt the thread of hope. Miss Carol stood. Come on. Before the slots fill. I followed her, feeling lighter and heavier all at once. We stepped outside into the cold morning air, but before we reached the corner, a black sedan screeched up to the curb. The passenger door flew open, and Sierra jumped out,
her eyes wild, her jaw clenched, her voice sharp like broken metal. "Layla, we ain't done." She started toward me, fast.
I froze where I stood, my breath catching mid-inhale. Sierra's boots slapped hard against the pavement as she marched toward me, her face twisted with something between rage and desperation. For the first time in my life, I didn't see my baby sister. I saw a threat moving straight at me. Miss Carroll instinctively stepped between us, one arm out like a protective shield. "Hold up now," she said firmly. "You don't run up on people like that. What's wrong with you?" Sierra barely glanced at her. "Move, lady. This is between me and my sister." Miss Carroll didn't budge. "Not with that tone, it ain't." My pulse hammered in my ears. People at the bus stop had turned to look. A man with a grocery bag paused mid-step. Even the cars driving by slowed a little, sensing something was off. Sierra's chest rose and fell fast, almost shaking. "Layla, why you running from me like I'm some criminal? You making everything worse." I swallowed, my voice barely steady. "I told you I needed space." "Space?" she spat. "You got everybody thinking I robbed you. Mama crying like I'm some damn villain. You making it look like I ruined your whole life." "You did." The words flew out, louder than I meant, raw and cracked. "Sierra, I'm literally homeless because of what you did." That last sentence hit her like a slap. Her eyes flickered, something soft breaking through her anger, but only for a second before pride shoved it back down. She shook her head. "You overreacting. I told you I was gonna pay you back. I told you my situation was bad. You act like you ain't never needed help before." "Wanting help is not the same as taking it," I said. My voice trembled, but there was steel underneath it now. "You're my sister," she snapped, her lip curling. "Family don't steal. Family share." Miss Carroll let out a low, disbelieving whistle. "Baby, that ain't sharing. That's manipulation." Sierra shot her a glare. "I ain't talking to you." Miss Carroll planted a hand on her hip. "And you ain't talking at her like this either." A muscle jumped in Sierra's jaw. She looked back at me, and for a moment, just one, her eyes looked glassy, hurt, scared, almost sorry. But then her fists clenched and the wall went back up. "You making a fool out of me, Layla," she said quietly, her voice shaking. "People calling me asking what happened. Mama saying she don't even know who to believe no more. You got folks thinking I'm trash." "I never said that," I whispered. "I just told the truth." "Well, maybe you telling it too loud." Something snapped in my chest. Not anger, clarity. A clean, sharp understanding. "Sierra, I'm done hiding what you did so you can feel comfortable. I'm tired. I'm hurt. And I'm trying to rebuild my life. You don't get to follow me around like this. You don't get to show up screaming in parking lots." Her face twisted again. But this time it wasn't rage. It was panic. Pure, frantic panic. "You gonna press charges on me?" she asked, her voice cracking. "I ain't built for jail, Layla. I can't." "No one said jail," I interrupted softly. "But you need to stop acting like I'm the one who hurt you." Miss Carroll stepped closer, her voice calm. "Honey, you need to go. This ain't the time. And this ain't the place." Sierra looked between us, her breathing uneven. Then her gaze locked back on me, and something dark flickered behind her eyes. "If you walk away from me right now," she whispered, "things gonna get real ugly." A chill crawled down my spine. "Is that a threat?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Miss Carroll stepped forward, her stance widening. "Baby, I'm gonna tell you this once. Back up." For a moment, none of us moved. The world seemed to shrink to 3 people standing on a cold sidewalk, each breath visible in the November air. Finally, Sierra stepped back. Just one step, but enough to shift the energy. She wiped her face with the back of her sleeve, her voice trembling. "You really choosing them over me? Strangers? A housing program? You act like you ain't got a family." "I'm choosing peace," I said quietly. "I'm choosing stability. I'm choosing myself." Her mouth twisted. "You always been selfish." "No, I'm finally learning to stop being self-sacrificing." Her eyes flickered again, hurt this time, and she turned abruptly. storming back to the car. The tire screeched as she sped off, leaving the bitter scent of burnt rubber in the air. Miss Carol placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "You all right, baby?" The question cracked something open inside me. Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep trying to fix somebody who doesn't want to be fixed. You don't have to, she said softly. You just gotta keep going. I nodded, wiping my face, trying to catch my breath. Let's go to the housing intake. Miss Carol gave a supportive nod and motioned for me to follow. We crossed the street, walked half a block toward the community housing center, and just as we reached the front steps, my phone buzzed. A notification, my bank app. Sierra had tried to access my account again and attempted login from a new device. My stomach dropped. The app flashed a warning, suspicious activity detected. I stared at the screen, breath frozen. If she was trying again, what else was she planning? For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. The bright red warning on my phone screen pulsed like a heartbeat, and each flash sent a jolt of fear through my body. Sierra had tried to access my account again, even after everything. After the confrontation at the motel, after chasing me through the streets, after the screaming, the accusations, the tears, she was still reaching for what little I had left. Miss Carol looked down at the phone, her face tightening. "Baby, you need to lock everything down right now." I nodded stiffly, my hands shaking as I opened the security settings. The November wind whipped around us, cutting through my coat, making my fingers numb as I typed. Every second felt like a countdown I didn't understand. I set up new passwords, turned on face verification, added extra authentication steps. My heart hammered the whole time. "Done," I whispered. But the fear didn't go away. It grew. If she'd tried once, what if she kept trying? What if she used my information somewhere else? What if she'd already done something in my name that I didn't know about yet? Miss Carol gently touched my shoulder. "Let's get you inside. You don't need to be out here thinking the worst." Inside the community housing office, warm air washed over me. A woman behind a desk smiled politely, handing us clipboards with forms. I tried to focus, but my thoughts kept spiraling. Each question on the paperwork felt like a reminder of how much I'd lost. Address, none. Previous address, a home I no longer had. Emergency contact, a sister I could no longer trust. I stared at the blank line, the pin hovering. My hand trembled. Miss Carol watched me from the seat across the table. "You can put me, baby, just for now. Just so you don't leave it empty." My throat tightened. I nodded and wrote her name with careful, shaky letters. As I filled in the rest, I heard the soft murmur of other women talking. A mother asking if the program had childcare hours. Another woman asking if overnight guests were allowed. A young woman telling the staff she was running from an abusive boyfriend. Their stories wrapped around the room like threads of pain and survival. I was one of them now. When I finished the forms, Miss Carol walked them up to the front desk. The intake worker scanned them, then said, "We can do a same-day placement. We've got an available room on the 3rd floor." My heart dropped again, but this time with relief. Not joy, relief. A small step toward safety, toward breathing again. Miss Carol clasped her hands. "See? God looking out for you." I tried to smile, but the tightness in my chest wouldn't ease. "Thank you, really." The intake worker gave me a key card, a pamphlet, and a map of the floor layout. "Take your time. You can move in today." I stared at the key card. One piece of plastic, one little room, one fragile chance at rebuilding. We stepped out of the office and Miss Carol led me to a hallway lined with bulletin boards and paper snowflakes made by kids in after-school programs. The air smelt like cleaning supplies and old carpet, and I felt safe. Not at home, but safe. "Before you move in, we should get your things," Miss Carol said. A small, embarrassed laugh escaped me. "All my things fit in one grocery bag." She looked at me with soft eyes. "Then let's go get 'em." We left the building and walked down the block toward the bus stop. My phone buzzed again. I tensed, afraid to look. This time it wasn't a bank alert. It was a voicemail from an unknown number. I hesitated, then pressed play. Static. Then Sierra's voice, low, vibrating with something unstable. "Layla, I know you at the housing thing. I ain't stupid, and since you want to make this into a whole show, fine. But remember this, you pushed me. You did this." My stomach
twisted. She sounded off, unhinged, not like earlier when she was angry but grounded. This was something else. The message continued. You think you better than me now? You think you can just walk away and act like I ain't family? If you walk into that place, I swear, things gonna change. A long breath. Then she whispered, you don't know what I got planned. The message ended abruptly. I stopped walking. My whole body went numb. Miss Carol turned. Baby, what's wrong? I handed her the phone with a trembling hand. She listened, her face tightening with each passing second. When the voicemail ended, she closed her eyes briefly. This is escalating. She's not just mad, she's unstable. My heart squeezed. What do I do? You protect yourself, Miss Carol said firmly. You document every message, every call. You keep screenshots. If she shows up again, we call the police. No more running. You hear me? The word police made me flinch. Not because Sierra didn't deserve consequences, but because calling them on my own sister felt like crossing a line we could never step back from. But what choice did I have now? We need to get your things, Miss Carol said softly. Then we'll get you settled. I nodded numbly. We caught the bus back to the motel. The ride felt longer, the silence heavier. When we reached my room, the door was still slightly ajar, just an inch. Miss Carol frowned. Did you leave it like that? No, I whispered. My heart plummeted. She pushed the door open slowly. The room was a mess. Drawers pulled out, the mattress shifted, my bag dumped on the floor. My stomach clenched so hard I thought I might collapse. Sierra had been here, searching, digging, looking for something. Miss Carol whispered, "Oh Lord, baby." Before I could speak, before I could even step inside, my phone buzzed. A text from Sierra. 4 chilling words. I told you so.
My whole body went cold. Those 4 words on my screen, I told you so, felt like fingers tightening around my throat. The air in the motel room seemed to shrink, pressing in on me with a suffocating weight. Miss Carol stepped fully into the doorway, her hand instinctively going out in front of me like a barrier. Don't touch anything, she warned softly. We need to see exactly what's been moved. I nodded, but my legs felt like they were made of wet sand. The room looked ransacked, not in the chaotic way of someone searching for their own belongings, but deliberate, targeted. My bag had been flipped over, my few clothes tossed around, my toiletries scattered across the carpet like someone had stomped through them. Even the mattress was at an angle, as if she'd shoved it looking for hidden money. She was looking for something specific. Miss Carol murmured, scanning the room with narrowed eyes. My IDs, I whispered. My cards, maybe my paperwork. I dropped to my knees and began checking my wallet. Driver's license? Still there. Debit card? Still there. The prepaid card I'd loaded with the rest of my leftover money? Still there. But the folded envelope with copies of my old financial statements, the ones I'd been collecting for housing paperwork, gone. My stomach twisted. Sierra took my documents. Miss Carol's face hardened. She's trying to get control. That's what people do when they feel their power slipping. They escalate. I covered my face with both hands, my breath trembling. Why is she doing this? Why is she like this? Miss Carol placed a steady hand on my back. Baby, because she's drowning. And instead of swimming, she's pulling down whoever's closest. I swallowed hard. I knew she was right. I knew Sierra wasn't evil, just desperate, impulsive, prideful, and backed into a financial corner she refused to admit she created. But none of that excused this. None of it justified tearing apart my room, stalking me, threatening me, stealing more of my life. I stood slowly, wiping my eyes. I want to leave. I need to get out of here. Then let's pack what's left, Miss Carol said firmly. We'll go straight to the housing center and talk to their safety coordinator. I grabbed my clothes, my toiletries, my notebook, crucial, and shoved them into my bag. My hands shook with every object I touched. When we stepped outside, the cold air slapped me hard, but it felt grounding. We walked quickly down the street, Miss Carol keeping pace beside me. My phone buzzed again. I almost didn't look, but the instinct to know overpowered the fear. Another message from Sierra. You leaving town or something? Why you acting scary? A long pause. Then another text. I know you still mad, but you don't gotta make this hard. Then seconds later, call me. Miss Carol peeked at the screen. No, Absolutely not. Don't respond. I'm not, I said quietly, but she won't stop. Then you set boundaries she can't cross, even if it means getting legal help. The word legal hit me in the chest. This was getting real in a way I'd been avoiding. It wasn't just a sister argument anymore. It wasn't just a family dispute. It was becoming dangerous. We reached the bus stop, and I sat on the cold metal bench, hugging my bag to my chest. I whispered, I never wanted any of this. Miss Carroll sat beside me, her voice gentle but steady. Baby, nobody ever does. But this is where you are, and you're handling it with more strength than you realize. I stared down the street as the bus approached, headlights glowing in the gray afternoon air. For a moment, I imagined a different life, one where my sister apologized, where my mother protected me, where family didn't hurt you for survival. But that wasn't my story. Not anymore. When the bus doors opened, we boarded and found seats near the back. I kept my bag clutched to me, afraid to set it down, afraid of losing even one more piece of myself. Halfway through the ride, my phone buzzed again. This time, an email notification. I opened it and felt my heart sink to my stomach. A loan application in my name, marked as in progress. Miss Carroll, my voice cracked. She's trying to take out a loan in my name. She inhaled sharply. Read it to me. I skimmed, my hand shaking. It says someone used my social to start a personal loan application for $8,000. It got flagged for unusual activity. Forward it to yourself, she said. Screenshot it. Save everything. This is serious, Layla. She's using your identity. Tears blurred my vision. Why would she do this? Why is she trying to destroy me? Because she's spiraling, and because she knows you love her enough to hesitate before stopping her. My breath trembled. I can't ignore this anymore. No, baby, you can't. We got off the bus near the community housing building. The sky had darkened, clouds gathering thick, threatening rain. I held my bag close and followed Miss Carroll inside. The warmth hit me again, but it didn't comfort me this time. It made the fear realer. Like once I stepped into safety, I had to admit how unsafe I'd been. At the front desk, Miss Carroll asked to speak to the on-site safety coordinator. A tall woman with braided hair and a calm, serious face came out to greet us. She guided us to a small office and closed the door. Tell me what's going on, she said. And for the next 15 minutes, I did. Everything. The money, the motel, Sierra showing up, the threats, the break-in, the loan attempt, all of it. When I finished, the coordinator nodded slowly. You've taken the right step coming here. Now we're going to help you secure your identity, file a protective report, and make sure she can't get near this building. Will she be arrested? I asked carefully. That depends on what steps you choose to take, but you are within your rights to file a police report for identity theft and harassment. Miss Carroll squeezed my hand. I could barely breathe. You don't have to decide today, but you do need to protect yourself. I nodded slowly. I want to. I just need a little time. Of course, she said. Let's get you into your room. You need to rest before you make any decisions. We stood and walked toward the elevator. My legs felt heavy, like I was walking underwater. When we reached the 3rd floor, she led me to a clean, small room with a single bed, a desk, and a window overlooking the street. This is yours now, she said warmly. Mine. A room, a key, a door that locked. As I stepped inside, relief washed over me, thin but real. But just as I set my bag down on the bed and exhaled for the first time in hours, my phone lit up one more time. A photo message from Sierra. My breath froze. The picture showed a crumpled envelope. My envelope. The one with my documents. And her message underneath it. You want these back? Then meet me. Alone. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. The room around me blurred. The walls, the bed, the soft overhead light, they all dissolved into static as I stared at the photo on my screen. The envelope was unmistakably mine. My handwriting, my careful labeling, all the documents I needed for housing, work applications, and identity verification in her possession, held hostage. Miss Carroll leaned over to look, And the instant she saw the picture, her face turned from concern to something sharper, controlled, protective. "Don't respond," she said, her voice low and steady, not a single word. My throat tightened. "But those papers, we'll replace everything," Miss Carroll said. "Every document can be reissued, but you can't be replaced. And Sierra knows you care. She's using that." The housing coordinator stepped closer. "May I see?" I handed her the phone, my hands trembling. She examined the message quietly, her eyes narrowing. When she finally spoke, her tone was firm and professional. "This is coercion. She's escalating, and she's trying to lure you into a situation where you're alone and vulnerable. Under no circumstances are you to meet her. But if I don't," I started, my voice cracking. "She'll keep taking things. She'll hurt me or herself. Listen to me," the coordinator said gently but urgently. "People who use threats to control you don't stop when you give in. They stop when you set a boundary they can't cross." I sank onto the bed, my hands pressed into my forehead. My mind felt like a storm. Fear, guilt, anger, love, confusion, all colliding so violently I could barely think. Miss Carroll sat beside me. "Baby, I know it's your sister. I know you still want her to choose better, but you can't negotiate with someone who's not thinking rationally," I whispered. "She's going to be so angry if I don't show up." "She's already angry. Meeting her alone won't calm her. It'll give her the chance to push you deeper into fear." The coordinator nodded. "And you need to understand, what she's doing is criminal. She is stealing from you, stalking you, threatening you, using your identity. None of this is a misunderstanding." Tears filled my eyes again. "I don't want her arrested." "No one said she will be," the coordinator replied. "You are the one who decides what steps to take. But what you can't do is walk into an unsafe situation because she's demanding it." My phone buzzed again. Another message from Sierra. "Stop ignoring me. You think I won't pull up?" My blood ran cold. Miss Carroll took the phone and set it face down on the desk. "I'm going to have the front desk watch for her. If she comes near this building, security will intervene." The coordinator nodded and picked up the office phone. "I'm calling the guard now." I watched her speak quietly into the receiver, giving Sierra's name, description, and warning them she was not to be allowed inside. Hearing them talk about my sister like a threat made something inside me collapse. Miss Carroll turned to me. "You need to breathe. Slow, deep, in through your nose." I shook my head. "I can't. I feel like something is closing in on me." She placed her warm hands on my shoulders and guided me to sit up straighter. "Look at me, Lila. You are safe in this building. You are not alone, and Sierra does not get to pull you back into chaos." I let out a shaky breath. My heart was still racing, but the room felt a tiny bit steadier. The coordinator hung up the phone. "Security's been alerted. You're protected here." Miss Carroll added, "I'll stay for a little while until you calm down." I nodded weakly, but just as I began to exhale, thinking maybe, just maybe, the danger was at bay for the night, someone banged on the front door downstairs. Hard. 3 times. The sound echoed up through the hallway outside my room, and my entire body jolted upright. Miss Carroll rose instantly, placing her hand on the doorknob as if shielding me. The coordinator pressed her lips together, listening. Another bang. Louder this time. Then a woman's voice, muffled but sharp, cut through the building. "Open the door! I know she's in there!" My heart stopped. It was Sierra, and she sounded unhinged. The sound of Sierra's voice ricocheted through the hallway like a crack of thunder. Every muscle in my body seized. I felt myself shrinking, folding inward, the way I used to as a little girl whenever chaos tore through our house. But this time, something in me refused to collapse completely. Miss Carroll held her hand up, firm. "Stay right there, Layla. Don't move." The housing coordinator was already on her radio, speaking in clipped, urgent
different tones. Security, this is Unit B. We have the individual at the entrance. Repeat, the individual is on site and attempting to force entry. Another violent bang rattled the building. Layla, don't play with me. Open this door. Miss Carroll stepped closer to me, blocking my view of the hallway like a shield. You don't have to listen to that, she whispered. But I did hear it. Every word, every tremor of resentment, every shred of desperation. Sierra wasn't just angry, she was unraveling. My hands trembled. She's going to lose it if they stop her. She already has, the coordinator replied. You are not responsible for her behavior. But guilt clawed at my chest. Even after everything she had taken, my money, my safety, my peace, I still felt tangled in the old sisterly duty I'd carried for years. The urge to fix, the instinct to soothe, the habit of sacrificing myself so she could feel whole for 5 minutes at a time. I pressed my palms against my thighs, trying to steady myself. What if she hurts herself or someone else? I don't want this to turn into something worse. Miss Carroll crouched low, so we were eye to eye. Listen to me, baby. You have spent years cleaning up Sierra's messes, years letting her pull you into storms she created, then blaming yourself for the aftermath. Tonight isn't about her feelings. It's about your life. My throat tightened. And if we don't draw a line now, she'll keep taking from you until there's nothing left. Before I could respond, 2 deep male voices echoed from downstairs. Ma'am, you need to back away from the door. She screamed, Get off me! Let me see my sister! There was a shuffle. A loud thud, then her voice cracked, high-pitched and ragged. She owes me! That's my money! I deserve it! Let me in! My stomach turned. She had convinced herself of the lie so fully she believed it, truly believed it. Miss Carroll guided me toward the bed. Sit. Breathe. Let security do their job. I sank down slowly, trembling as the yelling continued below, until finally, after what felt like an eternity, footsteps and the muffled argument faded into the distance. Silence returned heavy and uneven. The housing coordinator re-entered the room a few minutes later, her expression softened but serious. Security escorted her off the property. She didn't go quietly, but she's gone. I let out a breath so deep it shook my chest. Not relief entirely, but something like the first small break of light after a long storm. Miss Carroll rubbed my back gently. You did the right thing. Did I? My voice cracked. I feel like I abandoned her. You protected yourself, she corrected. And that's something you've never allowed yourself to do. The coordinator sat beside me. Layla, your documents can be reissued. Your credit can be repaired. Your stability can be rebuilt. What matters now is keeping distance from anyone who's actively harming you. Something inside me, something long abused, long silenced, shifted. For the first time in years, I believed them. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't broken. And I wasn't trapped under Sierra's chaos anymore. 3 weeks passed. During that time, the shelter helped me secure a temporary job, file for replacement documents, and start an emergency savings account again. This time, protected, locked, and monitored. Slowly, steady as a heartbeat, my life began to take shape again. Every day I worked, walked, healed, cried, grew, and rebuilt myself piece by piece. One afternoon, as I held the key to my new apartment, a tiny but warm 1-bedroom on the west side, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Power. Not anger, not revenge. Power. Real, quiet, hard-earned power. I stood in the empty living room, sunlight spilling across the bare floor, and whispered to myself, this is mine. I built this. No one can take it. A soft knock on the wall made me turn. Miss Carroll, smiling wide, leaned against the doorway. Well, look at you, she said, eyes warm. Told you you'd rise. I didn't believe it at first. You didn't have to, she said. You just had to keep putting one foot in front of the other. I nodded slowly. Thank you for everything, for protecting me, for seeing me. Miss Carroll touched her heart. Just promise you won't ever shrink yourself again. Not for family, not for love, not for guilt. I swallowed hard, but this time the tears that rose were soft, clean, liberating. I won't, I said. I'm done letting people weaponize my kindness.
Miss Carol beamed. Now that's the Layla I knew was in there. I walked to the window, touched the cool glass, and let the afternoon breeze wash over me. For the first time in months, my breath felt like my own. My life wasn't perfect. I still had work ahead, healing ahead, maybe even hard conversations ahead. But I reclaimed myself, and that was worth more than the $27,000 Sierra stole. The true victory was that I survived her, and I rose anyway. If you learned something new from my life story, please like this video, subscribe for more stories like mine, and comment down below where you're watching this video from. I'd truly love to know.